Hey, how's it going? My name is EG. I'm a self-employed photographer and filmmaker based in Phuket, Thailand. I am beyond excited about this lens. World first autofocus anamorphic lens. As I was unboxing the lens, the first impression was that it's a relatively big lens. Although it is designed for a crop sensor, I feel like the size of this lens is kind of full frame. There is an aperture ring on it. It's not clicked and you cannot lock it. The first thing that I thought is that I need to be careful in not bumping the aperture ring, because obviously I would like to shoot it mostly wide open. So in case you bump it, you do see on your menu screen what aperture you're using. There's a manual to autofocus switch on the side of the lens. As soon as you couple the manual focus, the lens will go to whatever focus you have the manual focus ring set to. Although it does have hard stops on both ends, the manual focus ring does, it's not synced up mechanically to the lens, if that makes sense. It's kind of a fly-by-wire system. The lens is really well designed. I don't mind the orange color. Some people don't like it. I think it fits really well, especially for E-mount. One thing that I did notice was when I had the camera flipped down, meaning I had the front element of the lens facing down, and when I turned the camera on, the autofocus motors in the lens made a little bit of a weird sound. The autofocus in the latest generation Sony cameras, such as the CVE1, which I'm using now, seems to work really well, especially when you have the face right in the middle of the frame. I want to see kind of what the limitations are when I'm using it on my Sony A7 IV, which does not have an AI chip. So this lens is designed for an APS-C crop sensor camera. I'm shooting it at the moment in full frame with active stabilization, meaning it's roughly 1.2 crop. Let me show you what it looks like without the active stabilization. You can see there's like beyond the vignette. I mean, it's just fully black towards the edges of the frame. Now I set up a relatively simple autofocus test in controlled environments, also kind of showcasing the distortion profile of the lens. And when you put the face to the side of the frame, the autofocus tends to lose you. This happens both on the CVE1 and the A7 IV. To my surprise, at least in this setting, the autofocus behavior is exactly the same, whether you have an AI chip, like in the CVE1, or without, with the Sony A7 IV. Just to compare the lens to something familiar, I compared it to my Sony A1 and a 50mm 1.2 GM. I mean, of course, the Sony has more background separation, but the Blazar has a really unique, nice look to it. Now, before I continue with this review, I want to make one thing clear. I have no relationship with Blazar and I got this lens with my own money. The only relationship that I have existing with Blazar is through Greyjoy. I got the Greyjoy 50mm back in 2022. It was a Kickstarter campaign. I think I was number 400 something on the campaign. Right around the same time, Sirui was announcing their Venus line of lenses, but I opted to go with Greyjoy because I felt like the character of their Flair was more muted and more natural. I just preferred the image from the Greyjoy lenses. A year later, after I got the 50mm, I also got the 85mm. Now, these lenses are absolutely spectacular, but they're also gigantic. I haven't been able to use these lenses in any professional context just because of the nature of the work that I do. I'm a solo operator, and usually when I'm on a project, all the technical aspects of a shoot, that's on me. I thought about getting a LIDAR system so that I could apply these lenses in a professional context, but ended up not doing it because, you know, it takes a long time to set up the LIDAR. You know, you need to break it down, you need to build it up, and what happens if something goes wrong in the shoot? You have to recalibrate, you have to like pause everything and start over again. For me and the types of projects that I have been doing, it just hasn't been a realistic option for me to do. But now that I have an autofocus anamorphic lens, I can. And this is what I'm really excited about. Now on Blazar's webpage, they say 1.33 times squeeze, 1.5 times look. They don't really go into detail how they achieve that, but I have a theory. So in the original 50mm that they launched back in 2022, you can see the anamorphic block of the lens is in the front. This is a traditional anamorphic lens design. Unfortunately, the 50mm suffers from a little bit of a variable squeeze factor. I think at minimum focus distance, the 50mm is more akin to 1.6 times squeeze, whereas where you go towards infinity, it gradually goes to 1.8 times squeeze. So a year after they launched the 35 and 50mm Greyjoy lenses, they also launched the 85mm. They kind of modified and adjusted the 85mm so it has constant squeeze. The 85mm has like a different design to it. If you look at the front element, there's not an anamorphic block in the front of the lens. They put the anamorphic element at the back of the lens. Traditionally, they're all designed with the anamorphic block in front. So this tells me that Blazar or Greyjoy, they're still figuring out who they are and making big changes and modifications between generations. And how I think they managed to get the 1.5 times look is by the shape of the aperture. I have here a Helios lens that has been modified. It's a Cinemod lens, and I'm not sure if you can see it in the lens, but the shape of the bokeh, or the shape of the aperture, is oval. The actual shape of the aperture is circular, as you can see when I lock it down, but there's an insert. It's not anamorphic, it's a spherical lens, but it has like very oval shaped bokeh. Now obviously they cut out a little bit of light. I think the exposure you get from an original f2 lens is more something close to like an f2.8. So you lose a little bit of light by doing that. I think that's what Blazar did with the Apex lens. They have probably the aperture of the lens is not fully circular. It's probably oval, just to get that more of an anamorphic look into the lens. Now, without talking too much about lenses that have nothing to do with the Apex, I just feel like this is what's happening in the landscape in general. We are all, as filmmakers or content creators, trying to find ways to stand out. I've never really felt comfortable using manual focus lenses in my projects because it just slows things down so much that I feel like I'm not able to deliver as good of a product to my client if I'm kind of stuck on some technical aspects of the shoot. I mean, I'm already doing the lighting, I'm operating the cameras, I'm also doing the audio. I mean, if I'm also adding things on top of this list to take care of, this is all taking my attention away from the actual shoot. The 50mm Apex got announced back in September 2024, along with a 35mm Apex, which has not been officially launched. A couple of months later, I think it was November 2024, Sirui not only announced, but they launched their very own 40mm 1.33 times anamorphic autofocus lens. I really looked at a lot of content online from the 40mm Sirui. That lens has a bit better coverage. It just about covers full frame, although that lens is also, just like the Apex, being marketed as a crop sensor camera lens. The Sirui is a little bit of an odd lens because the shape of the bokeh is not circular. It's kind of a hexagon. I personally think it's a little bit distracting. The Sirui lens does not have a barrel distortion like the Apex lens, but more pinch cushion distortion profile. And personally, I think like a barrel distortion fits anamorphic a bit better. So I opted to go with the Apex because I have lenses that are clean. I have lenses that are sharp. I have lenses that do that for me. So for me, the more analog, the more anamorphic, the more character that the lens has, the better. And I think this is one of the reasons why these lenses are getting so much attention online and why people like them this much, because for years, decades even, like lens manufacturers have been striving for perfection. This is partly also probably YouTuber reviewers' fault, because we keep analyzing the corners of the lenses. We demand perfection, we want less chromatic aberration, we want less vignette, we want more uniform sharpness throughout the whole frame, and the manufacturers delivered. Modern lenses are almost just about perfect these days. Man, the construction guys here are going to town. I think I'm going to finish this segment somewhere later. So what I wanted to talk about was the process of de-squeezing the footage. Now this is a 1.33 times squeeze anamorphic lens, meaning that you should squeeze the image down to 75%. By doing that, you get those black bars, you get that cinematic, attractive footage. But there's another way to do this. Let me show you. So I've been filming this entire review, and all the footage that I've been using in this review has been shot with active stabilization on, meaning the content is, just like I pointed out earlier in the video, is 1.3 times cropped. Now I'm back using the full width of the sensor. This is full frame, and the corners are quite dark. So one other method that I thought about de-squeezing the footage would be to keep the footage like squeezed down to 25%, but like zooming in the image, meaning that I'm just cutting off the dark corners of the frame, leaving me with a 16:9 image. And if you're mixing in content from spherical lenses, this could be the way to do it. Just to kind of wrap the review up, I feel like now more than ever, we have so many tools at our disposal. I mean, the cameras that we're using these days are being used to produce like super high budget TV series and movies, and we're running out of excuses. The technical barrier to entry has never been lower than exactly right now. It's a great time to be a filmmaker, especially a solo operation, because I feel like the smaller filmmakers, they're able to better compete with the bigger crews now more than ever. If you have a use case for this lens right now, get it. I'm very, very happy with this lens, and I would wholeheartedly recommend it to anyone looking to get into anamorphics or just want to add anamorphic look to the arsenal so that you can offer it to clients. Definitely go for it. Whether you go for the Sirui lens or for the Apex lens, that's totally up to you. I personally prefer the aesthetic that Blazar gives me. I'm very, very excited to see what the future holds. I suspect we're going to get a full frame covering lens pretty soon, but those lenses are probably going to be very, very big. So a part of me thought about staying, waiting, not going for the first generation, the first level of anamorphic autofocus lenses. You know, traditionally the second generation is always going to be better. I'm sure that's also going to be true in autofocus anamorphics. But you know what? This is a very compact, neat, nice lens, and I really, really like the look out of it. Sure, I lose a little bit of sharpness by not having the full sensor covered, but good enough for me. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Please remember to subscribe if you like the content. Wow, I'm really hungry. I hope you don't hear that. Have a good one, guys, and take care.